everyone, my name is Briche and I'm a registered nurse currently working in the Philadelphia area. I graduated from nursing school in December 2022 and took my NCLEX in February 2023. I passed on my first try in 75 questions. Here's how I did it, and here's how you can do it too. Firstly, you should familiarize yourself with the NCLEX content prior to actually beginning studying. So during my last semester of nursing school, I started doing this. I started looking up the different type of questions that I could possibly encounter on the NCLEX. I also looked at the length of the exam, any exam conditions that I could expect, and the scoring for the exam. I started periodically doing practice questions using a copy of Sarner's Q&A book. I found this copy on LibGen for free. It was a version from 2018 or 2019, but it had really good rationales and gave me a great starting point to start my NCLEX studying journey. It's really important that you immerse yourself in NCLEX related content in the weeks leading up to taking your exam. I gave myself a period of about 4 to 6 weeks to study for the NCLEX. I couldn't put an exact timeline on it because I had not received my authorization to test yet, and I did not have an actual test date. So I graduated December 12th and gave myself a little winter break and started actually studying December 26th. For my studying preparation, I used multiple resources. These included UWorld, Archer, Mark Klimek, Simply Nursing, and Nurse Crusader. I also used a couple other YouTubers like Registered Nurse RN and Level Up RN, but those were my main sources. I made a strict scheduling calendar that I followed every day. I basically made studying my full-time job and took 4 weeks off from my per diem job to focus solely on studying. Now, I must preface this by saying that I studied a bit intensively and this method might not work for everyone, but this is just what worked for me. So I studied 6 days a week and took off on Sundays generally. For the first 2 weeks of studying, this was my schedule. I woke up at 8 a.m., I did 100 UWorld questions, and during these questions, I had the rationales turned off. So I did the questions straight through, and I allowed for breaks in between, but I gave myself a 2-hour limit to do these 100 questions. After I completed these around 10 a.m., I would review all the rationales, write down any new information or stuff that I got wrong. I made sure to review all the rationales, even of the stuff that I got correct, just to give my brain a little refresher. Then I usually did a gym run and maybe ate some lunch. Around 3 p.m., I started back up with 100 more questions, same as I did in the morning. Then I ate dinner after this whole process again. Then around 9 p.m. at night, after socializing and everything, I reviewed all the stuff that I wrote down from that day and from previous days. This was to get the content stuck in my brain to make sure I would never forget it. With this method, I completed UWorld's entire question bank in about 12 working days or 2 actual weeks. So this was about 2,300 questions that I completed. I highly recommend UWorld for content. Their content is top-notch and will give you a great basis in knowledge for the NCLEX. All right, so after completing UWorld's entire question bank, I started using Archer as well as YouTube resources. Now, Archer rationales are not the best, but they do have amazing questions that are very similar to what you would see on the NCLEX. I would not look too deeply into their rationales because they are like very short and give you a short rationale. So I would stick to UWorld for content and like deeper understanding of topics. So I did what I did previously. I woke up, did 100 questions on Archer, then I would review the questions and rationales, but I did not take notes on them as I did with UWorld. I just kind of went through the questions and just were using them as practice questions to gauge where I was at with Archer. And basically these exams would tell you if you got a high chance of passing, very high, and I was just trying to gauge where I was at every single day to see my readiness for the NCLEX. So then I would go to the gym, have lunch, and then I would spend 2 to 3 hours doing YouTube content review. So I would watch different YouTubers every day, just kind of what I was feeling like was my weaker topics. I did Nurse Crusader's 7-day NCLEX prep. I watched all of Simply Nursing pharmacology videos as well as his content videos. They have very great explanations, especially if you want like a great foundation into different disease processes. I also listened to Mark Klimek's lectures on delegation, psych, and maternity. I didn't really watch a lot of his videos because I felt like some of them were dated and didn't have a lot of relevant current information. So then I would take a break to socialize, eat dinner, and then I would review information from my UWorld notes that I had taken priorly, and then I would maybe sometimes do 50 more questions on Archer depending on how I felt that night. After about a week of strictly using Archer, I started alternating between Archer and old UWorld questions that I had previously gotten wrong. By this point, my brain was feeling a lot like mush most days. I felt like question-wise, I could not put much more into it. So I was more YouTube reliant and more video reliant. By the third week of intense studying, I did receive my authorization to test, and I scheduled my NCLEX for 2 weeks after that. So I did this because I felt like I couldn't do much more questions. At this point, I did probably 4,000 questions total between Archer and New World, and my brain just couldn't even process NCLEX style questions much further. So the 2 weeks leading up to my NCLEX, I kept alternating between questions, videos, reviewing notes as best I could. So I also took a bit more days off to give myself a bit more of a break. So I only actively studied for 4 or 5 days. On test day, I had to travel from Baltimore City to Philadelphia in the morning. And on the train ride in, I did review content. I reviewed the notes that I had previously taken from UWorld, but I did not do any questions. I know people say you shouldn't review content or do any questions, but my anxiety would not allow this to happen. So I arrived at the testing center. I took my NCLEX. The test shut off at about 75 questions after about an hour of testing, and the rest is history. If you found this video at all helpful, like, comment, and subscribe. And also let me know in the comments what more videos you guys would like to see. If you would like a little bit more insight into the different NCLEX studying resources, if you would like to learn more about nursing in particular, or about my first nursing job and my journey as a nursing student. Bye, guys.